Welcome back.
Look
Me.
who's back. Which it feels crazy because, like, to the viewers, it wouldn't feel like you were gone that long. But to
I
me,
know. They're like 1 week. You guys, wow, what a whirlwind. I can't believe it's April. I can't believe I gave birth 5 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm so excited to like catch up with you guys. And Tori, literally, I have been waiting, you guys, to tell Tori my whole birth story for this podcast. So
I know I've been on the edge of my seat, and every time that we talk and she starts to talk about, she's like, "Well, I'll tell you later." Like, save it for the pod. Save it for the
wait
pod.
for the pod. I know. Get your genuine reaction. Yeah, it was crazy. And just like kind of a long story, which is why I'm like, let's wait for this when the baby's not, attached to me. And I can like actually tell you.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and start.
All right. So, you guys know I was induced and it was a medical induction, which now that I've been induced, I'm like, wow, okay, never again. And you'll see why. I was induced on a Saturday. It was Saturday, February 22nd. And I went in at 10 a.m. Had a big breakfast that morning. We were so excited, so nervous. I was like, no, this is going to go so well. Like, I'm manifesting it. So we get there at 10 a.m. We go into like our triage room, and the nurse in there, her name was Joy. I remember that because I was like, this is a good omen, Joy. I had forgotten my delivery gown in the car. So I had to put on the stupid hospital one, but I was like, Joy is our nurse. It's going to go well.
Yeah.
So Joy starts like doing all all the intake forms, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to take some blood." And she's like taking blood, and then all of a sudden it's like severe pain in my arm, and I was like, "When are you going to put in the what's it called?
IV or no?
The IV." Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my brain like doesn't work, by the way, so this will be fun. I was like, "When are you going to put in the IV?" And she was like, "Oh, I just did it." And I was like, "Oh, that's why that was so painful. Okay, cool." So got my IV, and then
Did you not
finally,
see it? Like, could you not see her doing it?
well, I wasn't looking. I was like, like when you
Oh,
get blood, do you watch them?
no, but were you like, oh, was she not telling you she was gonna do it?
No, she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you." I was
Oh,
like, "Yeah, you didn't tell me."
you were just like, ow, painful in my arm.
Yeah, I was like, wow, she really sucks at taking blood because that's like super painful. I'm like squeezing John's hand. She's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot to tell you." I was like, it's probably best you didn't tell me
So
because
I
I
didn't.
was just like, eh.
So they take your blood when you get there too,
Apparently, I don't know what that was for. Maybe to check like my blood level, like white blood levels and red blood cell levels,
or maybe
I
that was
think.
just before they were induced, since you were being induced.
Yeah, but I think they wanted to keep track of my blood, and I'll get to that later as well. So I think that's why they were like checking the levels of that, and probably also checking for just to make sure I didn't have preeclampsia, because I
Yeah.
think you can tell that from a blood test, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, because the whole reason I was being medically induced, which I forgot to mention, was because I had gestational hypertension, so high blood pressure in pregnancy, which was managed. They were worried about preeclampsia, so they were like, let's induce you at 38 weeks. So anyway, finally get to my postpartum room. I was like, damn, this is nice. Like it was so big. You have like your own bathroom, your own shower, which I never once used. John had a couch that was like a pull-out bed almost, and it was so comfy. I was like, wait, I thought your bed was supposed to be like really uncomfortable. This is like really nice. I'm like, can we
You're
switch?
supposed to suffer because I'm suffering too.
Exactly. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. And then I had like my monster bed, and then like the bassinet that the baby was going to go in, which she, spoiler, never got to go in because I didn't deliver vaginally. So we like get there, and I'm like hyped. Like they ordered food for us. The food was disgusting, but I was like, whatever. Like I'm going to have this baby so soon. It's going to be great. So at
What
2 o'clock,
do you remember
what?
what the food was? Like, what was it? Was it like,
Yeah, it was pasta with meat sauce. And it wasn't like, I mean, it was probably the worst pasta I'd ever had, but it's pasta's like pizza, right? It's always good.
yeah, I'm like,
But
how bad
then
can it be?
it was these like carrots on the side that were cut into these little tiny cubes, and they were inedible. I was like, where did you find carrots this bad? How did you ruin carrots? I love carrots.
Oh,
What
they
did
were
you
trying to
do?
go. They were trying to do bolognese with the carrots and the pasta.
It was bad, y'all. Like, which is funny because I remember looking at it and being like, I don't know, it looks kind of good. My mom saw it and she was like, oh my God, that looks horrible. I was like, it was. So 4 hours after I'd gotten there, it was 2 o'clock. And that's when they inserted what's called the Foley balloon. Have you ever heard of this, Tori?
Yes, Matt always talks about them, but he mostly because they're called. Well, the way he talks about them are like Foley catheters, so I don't know if it's different.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
I think
But
that's the same thing.
okay. But yeah, when you were going through all this, I was like, and telling, like, keeping me updated in real time about the Foley balloon situation. Matt was telling me, and he even showed me pictures about what it was that was happening.
Nice. I love the support.
Yeah, so I was like, so what is this? I was asking all the questions.
What did he tell you about it?
He knew a lot because they do them all the time at work,
Yeah.
apparently. But he was just explaining, like, whenever it would go up, like, exactly what your body was doing and, like, how it would trigger things. Like, just, like, you know, like, why someone would get that done, basically.
Did he tell you if they were painful?
I asked him that, and he said some people say that they're really painful, and some people, they are like, it doesn't really hurt that bad. He said it really just depends on the person. And he's like, I'm not sure why one person it's more painful than the other. But he said sometimes people are like, nothing. Like, they don't even notice it. And then sometimes people are like, this hurts so bad. So...
Well, so I was expecting it to not be super painful.
He said typically it doesn't hurt that bad. He said if someone is like, oh my gosh, this hurts so bad, that's not common, but it does happen.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because my doctor had said like they might give you the Foley balloon and send you home because you usually keep it in for like 12 to 24 hours. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so chill. So the doctor came in and she checked me and I was at 0 centimeters dilation, which is just a great place to start. They were like, it's going to feel like a little uncomfortable to put it in, but like, it's not going to be that bad. But if you want pain medication, you can have it. I was like, I don't think I need pain medication. Like I have a really high pain tolerance. Like I'm so chill. So they put the Foley balloon in and it wasn't that bad getting it put in. It was like a pap smear, you know, like there was some pressure. It was a little uncomfortable, but it wasn't like that bad. And I was like, cool. All right. Like we're off to the races. And very quickly it started to ramp up to where I was having excruciating contractions. And it was like so bad.
Did they feel like period cramps or?
Yeah. Like the worst period you've ever had where you're just like inconsolable on your couch, like in the fetal position.
Oof.
Which I've never had. I don't have painful periods. So this was crazy. So it was like really bad, really fast. So bad to the point that they came in and they were like, we can give you morphine. And I was like, yes, give me fucking morphine. And they jammed it into my butt. And they like gave me like a shot in my butt. And then I had like relief after maybe like 30 minutes. And then I was able to like sleep for like 2 hours. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm doing okay. Like the pain's gone. And then all of a sudden it came back.
But hold on, I have a quick question. So were these cramps from like you going into labor from the balloon triggering that, or were they cramps just from the balloon?
So basically they put the balloon in and it starts to inflate on your cervix to emulate the baby's head pushing down on your cervix, which will make your cervix more dilated. Mm-hmm. This is already painful when it happens naturally because that's like early labor when it starts to like dilate. But when you get this done manually, it can be like way more painful because your body wasn't like really ready and it doesn't have all these like hormones releasing like oxytocin and stuff. And so it can be like pretty painful. That's what I discovered. But they had like really talked this down. Like they were like, no, the pain's going to be so mild. You could literally go home. Like, don't even worry about it. So when I started to have this pain, like that was excruciating. Like I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. No position made this better except actually sitting on the toilet. Like just sitting on the toilet was like the only relief I could get. And they'd come in and be like, where is she? And John would be like, well, she's just sitting there. Like,
Or you're
what?
like, I'm going to have this baby in the toilet.
Yeah, I was like, at this point, I'm staying here. Like, I live here now. Like, send the bed away. I also had this nurse who had served as a nurse in the Air Force. That was my nurse. So she was a little intense, and I don't think she liked me very much. And I was scared of her. And she's the one who was like, she was looking at me like, girl, like, if this is that painful for you, like, you're not going to do well. Like, she just kept telling me that, like, not in so many words, or I don't remember how she phrased it, but it was basically like, oh, you're fucked. So that was making me really upset.
That's so rude. And like I said, everyone is different. Like Matt even said that. Matt even was like, it typically isn't painful, that thing that you're talking about. But for some people, it can be. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah,
you're like the one or whatever that has like some nerves down there. Like, how dare she?
I know. So, like, that just made me really question myself. And it got to the point, oh, by the way, my doula had not arrived yet because she was literally in another birth that they went into labor early. But anyway, that's beside the point. I just started to really question myself. And I remember this nurse came in and she was like an angel sent from heaven. She wasn't my nurse. She was just like relieving someone for their break. And I just started sobbing. And she like took my hands and I was like, am I so weak? Like, I can't do this. Like, should I just have a C-section? Like, I cannot do this. I am in so much pain. And she was like, you can do this. And I was like, but do you think like this much pain is normal? Like, and she was like, it's normal. Like, basically what you said. She's like, for different people, it's different amounts of pain. And I was just like, I'm so weak. Like, I can't do this. And I just like had this like real heart to heart with her. And I was like, you're an angel. And I was just sobbing. So finally, after that, my doula arrived and 15 minutes with this woman would have been the best money I ever spent. I mean, I'm so glad I had a doula, especially if you're doing a natural birth, you guys. Get a freaking doula. She like held my hand. She helped me like breathe through the contractions. She was like just immaculate. And poor John's there, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And she was like, breathe. And it was great. But I still kept begging for more morphine. And they were like, well, we can't give you another butt shot, but we can put morphine in through your IV. I was like, put it in. Put the morphine in. Give me anything. I want the drugs. So
is
they
this
put.
before you get an epidural?
Yeah. I mean, I could have gotten an epidural at any time. I will preface that. But once you get an epidural, you can't walk and you can't eat.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
wanted to put that
You
off
kind of want to
until
like time it.
yeah.
So I was like, shit, maybe I should get the epidural. So anyway, they gave me morphine through my IV. And like a couple minutes later, I looked down at my hand and it was swollen to like double its normal size. And I was like, is this normal? And they were like, no. And I guess they'd like infiltrated the IV, like it, and something happened and it was all just going right under my skin.
Oh, that's bad when that happens.
Yeah, they were like, oh, thanks for letting us know. Cool, cool. So yeah, I didn't get that morphine. And basically, this whole Foley balloon took 8 hours that I was in excruciating pain, except for like 2 hours when the morphine actually worked. So 6 hours of pain. And I was like, wow, I'm not cut out for this actually. I'm actually pretty weak. I thought I had a high pain tolerance, but maybe I was incorrect. So it was like, yeah, it was 10 o'clock at night. The doctor comes in. She's like, I'm going to just like tug on the balloon and see like if it comes out. Cause at this point, like it could come out if it's been like dilating your cervix. So she like pulls on it and she pulled it out. And I was like, had like instant relief. Like everything stopped. All the pain stopped. I was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. And she was like, great, you're 4 centimeters dilated. And I was like, oh, yay. Like this actually explains the pain so well. Like I went from a 0 to a 4. And like you go up to a 10. So that felt like almost halfway. And I was so happy. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to have this baby so soon. Like I was telling everyone, I was like, I'm going to have her tomorrow morning. It was 10 o'clock at night. So I was like texting my mom, the whole family chat, like, yep, everything's great. I'm going to have her tomorrow morning. Like, this is going to be her birthday. Like, look up her star sign. Like, I was like, we just final stretch here. Like, we're doing great. So I like went and walked around and they basically wanted to then start me on something called Pitocin, which is, yeah. It's like oxytocin, but it's the synthetic hormone that they give you, which basically oxytocin or pitocin, like those kickstart labor. So
Mhm.
I was in early labor at this point, and that would have gotten me to like 10 centimeters dilated, and then I could push. But what I heard was get the epidural before you get the pitocin because those contractions are like the worst. So I was like, sign me up, one epidural, please. And they were like, all right, have your like final meal, like eat a bunch of food. And it was like middle of the night. So I'm like, eating my like mac and cheese that I brought in like those little cups, and
I
like
have
snacking on
I have a
sun
question.
chips.
Do
Yeah.
you have to eat their hospital food, or can
No,
you? Okay,
no,
just
but it was
curious.
like midnight at this point.
No,
So
yeah. But I was just curious, like, because hospital food sucks. So
it does. It's really bad. It is free though.
yeah, that's
So that's
true.
kind of nice. But at this point, it was just like the snacks we brought. I was like, having my
Yeah.
chips and stuff. And I like did a couple laps around the floor with my doula and my husband. And that was really fun. I was like looking at everything. And they were like, this is the last time you're going to walk for a little bit. So, enjoy it.
Looking at everything. What do you mean? You're like, oh, this is what the hospital looks like.
I mean, I hadn't been out.
I just see you doing that. I see you walking around like
Yeah.
John, like escorting you.
Literally, like they were both like holding my arms, and I was just like, huh. Like they had these like posters out there with all the nurses on it. So we would go and be like, oh, we like this nurse. We don't like this nurse. Or like, oh, she looks nice. Like that type of thing. Just like looking at all their pictures.
Creating a top 8.
Yeah, exactly. And the Air Force nurse was in my bottom 8. My doula was so funny too. She was like, we need to win her over. Like, what can we do? I was like, I'm gonna win her over. Oh, because the other issue that I forgot to mention was keeping the baby on the fetal monitor. It's so hard to do.
Wait, what do you mean? So what even is
So, okay, so they need to monitor the baby at all times, especially with an induction to make sure their heart rate doesn't drop and then they die.
that? Okay.
Very serious, like very, very serious.
But how do
But
they even do that? Like,
so they have this like bands that they put around you, and then there's like a little thing that you push down and that captures the baby's heart rate. The problem is the baby moves constantly in there, and also like you have to find the heart rate, and usually it takes a little pressure. So you can't just sit there for like 24 hours like putting pressure on this thing with your hands. Like that doesn't make sense. So they would like try to affix these bands in like a way that like they would get the heart rate, then they would, and then 10 minutes later the baby would move. And so Air Force nurse was like, we really need to keep the baby on the monitor. And I was like, yes, ma'am, that's your job. My job is to just be in labor. Like, and she was just looking at me like, you need to keep the baby on the monitor. And I was like, I don't know how to do that.
what control of that do you have?
Exactly. I'm like, I'm already trying not to move. I haven't been moving for like 12 hours. Like, what am I supposed to do? Then they put these things on. I don't know, but they basically like stuck the monitor onto my like lower belly. And that worked really well for like 12 hours. But I did get like a very intense rash from it because my skin like did not like what was stuck on there. So that was fun. But
How
basically just
was it,
fetal
like,
monitoring was
itchy?
hard. Yeah, it was itchy and it just like, I don't know. It was just very stuck on my skin. My skin's so sensitive. We'll get back to that. So it's epidural time. And they were like, okay, you can have one person in the room with you while you get it. And I was like, are you kidding? I have a doula and a husband. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I obviously chose the doula because John doesn't know anything about this and she does. So John left and they like prepared me for this process. They brought in the anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologists are not super nice or friendly, which is super fun. And then they tried to like send my doula away. They were like, you can wait on the other side of the room. And she was like, no, I'm going to stand here and hold her hands and like walk her through this. And I was like, okay, good thing I didn't choose John because John would have been like, okay. So basically to get the epidural, first you get a shot of lidocaine, which is like the same stuff that they like put in your mouth when they numb you for like cavity. And so I was like, okay, that's not bad. Like I'm prepared for that. So they shot me. It's like the lower spine with lidocaine. And I had like some sort of reflex that I just like jumped so high. And it was just like an uncontrollable reflex. And I was freaking out because I was like, oh my God, they say that you can't like move for the epidural because it can like go into your spine or like, I don't know, probably kill you. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he was like, that's okay. That's okay. Like, you just can't move for this next bit. So I was brave. And I was so scared. Like, I was so scared. This whole time I was thinking, like, damn, you have to be so brave to give birth because this is fucking scary. Like, the epidural needle is like so long.
Yeah, it's basically like that's like the equivalent of getting a spinal tap. Like that's what you're doing when you're getting an epidural.
Yeah, crazy. And I knew this and I was terrified. Thankfully, the lidocaine worked and it just felt like pressure. So I was just standing there like sweating balls, holding my doula's hand, just like, I'm so brave, I'm so brave, I'm so brave. Like just singing that to myself. And I did it. And then I instantly started to feel my legs get all like tingly. And within 30 minutes, like I couldn't feel my legs, which was crazy. So yeah, I think that was probably around like 1 or 2 a.m. that I got the epidural. So, we were really, I got there at 10 a.m. on Saturday. This was like 2 a.m. on Sunday. So we were like getting there and I was like, all right, I'm going to have my baby soon. Yay. Just so like hopeful. After I got the epidural, I like tried to sleep for a bit, but trying to sleep in labor and delivery is hard because your nurses come in constantly. And for me, it was because the baby kept going off the monitor. And they were like, we have to monitor you. So they would wake me up like 30 minutes after I'd fall asleep and be like, your baby's off the monitor. We have to like adjust you. And then like every hour with the epidural, they would come turn me because I couldn't turn myself. So I
So
did
when
not sleep.
after you get the epidural, like you can't move your legs.
Some people have more movement than others. But yeah, for me, it was like I could somewhat feel them, but I couldn't really move them on my own. Like I would try, but they wouldn't move, It was a crazy feeling.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, and then what was weird is I started to get extremely itchy, like on my entire body, but like mostly on from my neck to like my torso area and on my back. And I was like, what is going on? And they were like, oh yeah, that's a side effect of the epidural. I was like, nobody thought to tell me this. Like I could have prepared myself.
Yeah,
Like
some itch cream, you know?
yeah, or something. So I was begging them for Benadryl. I was like, inject it in my veins, please. I'm so itchy. And they gave me Benadryl and that made me drowsy, but it did not take the itchiness away. So I
Mm.
was like, what is
It's
going
also
on?
like, how are you supposed to hold still to keep the baby monitor in the right spot if you're itchy? You know?
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Like just an impossible task. So it was a long night and they came in the next morning to do another cervical check. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be like 8 centimeters because they'd been up in the Pitocin all night. So I was like, wow, I'm going to be so far along. And they check me and they're like, okay, so you haven't progressed. You're still at a 4. And I was like, you're freaking kidding me. And we would just be waiting. Like they'd be like, we're going to be back in 6 hours to check you again. So then we'd be like, all right, we just have to make it 6 more hours. Like nothing's going to happen for 6 hours. And I was like, don't worry, I'm still having this baby today. They came back 6 hours later, no progression.
Really?
6 hours later, no progression.
And the Pitocin is supposed to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And they were like ramping me up by like a 2 every 30 minutes. And the highest you can go is a 30. So by the next day, they were like, all right, well, we're going to do like some more blood testing to just make sure you're good. And then like we can ramp you all the way up to a 30. And that should like really do something. And the good news was that Charly was doing very well during this process, which is great because sometimes emergency C-sections happen when the baby's heart rate suddenly drops or they don't like what's going on. But she was chill the whole time. So I was like, thank God that's not a concern. So they come in that night. I'm trying to remember because it starts to get fuzzy, but they came in that night and they were kind of like, okay, you still haven't progressed. We're going to like up you now to the 30 and then you'll stay that way overnight. And like, if nothing progresses in the morning, like we may have to discuss a C-section. And I remember it was like the middle of the night cervical check where they ramped me up to a 30. Nothing had happened still. Like no progression. John was asleep and I didn't want to wake him up. And I was having like a very quiet chat with the doctor. And she was just like, look, you should start considering a C-section. And she walked me through the entire process of what a C-section looks like. And I was just sitting there like, just like dying inside because my one thing that I didn't want was a C-section. That was like my one birth plan. So I was like, oh, this is not great. Like I really thought I could do it. And it was, she like left and I was sitting there crying. And then that same nurse from the first day who was there when I was like having my meltdown during the Foley balloon just like came in again, just all of a sudden. And I was sobbing and she was like, oh my God. I was like, girl, you only see me at my lowest. And yeah, she was like, maybe it's a sign, like, or maybe I'm meant to be here because I can help you get through this. And it was so beautiful. And I was just like, oh my God, like, you're just an angel. Like, I just, every time I really needed someone, like, she was there. And she wasn't even my nurse. She was never my nurse. Like, that was crazy.
That's
So
so sweet.
I know.
You know, I feel like every mom that I've talked to has from their birth story like one nurse in particular that was like their like person that made them feel good.
Totally. Yeah, and she wasn't like even our nurse. It was so funny. So after that, I was like, okay, I need to like process this. And then John woke up and my doula came in and I told them everything. And the doctor was like, let's check you again in the morning and like see maybe we've had some progression. So she comes back in the morning and I was at a 5 and I was like, yay, I went up. And she was like, I know, I was like, progress. And she was like, oh, I forgot to mention too, the previous day they broke my water.
Oh,
because
really?
that's kind of important.
Yeah. Do you have to break your water before you get the progression? What's that med called?
Progression. Pitocin. No, this was like after I'd gotten the Pitocin, and the Pitocin's supposed to like speed things up, and breaking your water is supposed to speed things up. So they were like, do you want to break your water? And I was like, I mean, sure. Because at this point, you know, I hadn't eaten in like 24 hours or 12 hours. I don't know how long it was.
You can't eat.
You can't eat, you can't
Can
walk.
you drink water?
Yeah. Yeah. You can have clear broth or like clear liquids. So I was having some broths and I was having water.
A fast. You're fasting.
I was fasting. And then my doula went and got me one of those refreshers from Starbucks. And she was like, you can have this. And I was like, wow. But I wasn't even hungry. It was weird because it like slows your digestive system down.
You're probably also so like everything going on. Like, you know,
Yeah.
whenever something traumatic is going on, you like can't eat, you know?
Exactly. I was like, I can't even drink this refresher. But the broth was like surprisingly really good. So anyway, they broke my water. And basically from that point on, I had like a 24-hour clock because after 24 hours, if your water's broken, there's an increased risk of infection. So they don't want that to happen. So you kind of have 24 hours to give birth once they break your water. And I was so confident. I was like, oh, they're going to break my water. I have them on Pitocin. I'm going to be chilling. I'm going to give birth like so soon. That did not happen. So the next morning, I think it was like 10 o'clock, they were like, you have 4 more hours of your clock. And then like, we're really going to have to do a C-section because, you know, we're worried about infection. And they walked me through it and they were like, so you can wait 4 more hours or you can do it now. And at this point, I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. This was Monday. I hadn't slept since Friday night, basically, before I went in. I was so tired. I was so doped up on my epidural and like on everything. And I was just like, I just felt so defeated, you know? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get this over with. Let's do a C-section. And they were like, all right. And they started preparing me for the C-section. And that was terrifying. Oh, yeah. Something else I forgot to mention. I was having like full body labor shakes this entire time. So my whole body was just like so tense. And I was just like shaking, uncontrollably shaking.
I've never heard of those. Are those like a common occurrence or is that like a progression?
Pitocin
Side effect?
I'll help you with that. It's common. And I can't remember if I started having these before or after I got the epidural, but it was like the whole time. Like, and I think your body's just so tense and so you're just terrified. I mean, at least for me, that's how it was. I was so scared and I had no choice but to go through it. And I just literally kept saying like, I just have to be brave. Like, that's all I can do.
What did the shakes feel like? Like, did it just feel like when you get the chills, you know?
Yeah, but like you can't stop it. You just have to like go through it. And like just like constantly like, you know.
So were they like, would you call them like episodes, like the shakes like happening in episodes, or would you say like it was just a constant shake?
It was a constant, and there were times that I could like really start to breathe a little bit more and like calm my body, because that's what it was. I was just so tense and I was just like shaking. So I would try to like breathe through it. And all the nurses were like, "Oh my God, I know it's the worst. There's like nothing you can do." I was like, "Okay, cool." So basically by this point, you know, I'd been there for 48 hours. It was almost 50 hours, I think, of labor. And I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm so done at this point. But I was also terrified of having a C-section, and they'd like told me the entire process. And I was like, you know what? We just like have to do this. Like the doctor, I was like, tell me what you would do. Would you do the C-section or would you wait longer? And she was like, I'm going to be honest. I've never seen someone go from this to like progressing to a natural delivery. She's like, it's just such, it would be so rare for that to happen.
The doctor said that?
Yeah. She was like, so I would do the C-section. And I was like, oh my God, that fucking sucks.
Did you have any preconceived notions of the C-section like before?
Yeah, I was terrified of a C-section. That was all I didn't want. Like, that was my birth plan. Have baby, no C-section.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was it. And I was really scared of it because I've had like multiple friends who at 6 weeks post-op, they ripped their stitches open and had to like start the healing process all over again. And so I was just worried about like the postpartum part of this, the healing part, you know, having open wounds basically when you're caring for a newborn, like sounds really hard, and it's major surgery. So like I just really did not want that. But at this point it was like basically no other choice. They rolled me to the OR, up to my epidural. Like I couldn't feel anything. I was terrified. I'd also met this nurse called Donna, and Donna was like this older woman who was very like in it with me. Like she would come over and hold my hand and be like, "You fucking got this." And I was like, "Thank you, Donna." But she was also like all business, and I didn't know we were so close. And then she like like to me she was just a nurse, and I'd met her like 10 hours ago, you know. And she came in and she was like, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna be here, I am gonna come into your C-section, I'm gonna be there for you. And she's like, I wouldn't miss it for the world, like I'm gonna be there for you. I was like, okay, Donna, like I guess I got a friend in you. And she like literally like she was like, I'm gonna go take my break, and when I come back I'm going in that room with you. And I was like, okay, like I didn't give a shit. I was like, look, I don't care, I'm in my own world, but like thank you, you know. Like you're lovely. So they roll me into the OR. Dawn is there. She's like, you know, we got this, girl, we got this. She's like, thanks for letting me be here. I'm like, I didn't have a choice. And they were like, okay, John, you have to stay outside of the room while we prep her for the surgery. So I go in, and it's like I'm on a freaking medical show. Everyone's like, okay, time of surgery, like 4:12 of whatever. Patient, Hannah Schneider, having baby girl, like all this stuff. It was just like so official. And then they were like, okay, we're so sorry, but we have to give you another IV because you need two, because one's for like this stuff, and then this would be for if you start to bleed out, we have to give you a blood transfusion, which they did. Shocker. So they had tried, I think, 8 times to give me an IV. I have difficult veins, so like taking blood and stuff is already difficult, and having them try 8 times to give you an IV, like the things that go into are thick, like into your skin. It's super painful. And they just could not get it. Like 3 nurses tried. Like everyone was trying. And I'm just getting pricked, and it was awful. Finally, they're like, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to go in through your wrist, which is the most painful place to get an IV. And so they go in through my wrist, and I was like screaming in pain. And poor John's on the other side of the door, just like watching me through the little window. And I'm just like crying and screaming, and like Foley balloon has nothing on getting a wrist IV. I still have the scar, like horrible, but that was successful. So at least they got it in at, you know, like imagine if I had to go through that and then they were like, oh, we have to try the other wrist. Like I would just pass away. So they did that. And then they brought John in and everything was happening so fast. And I was so scared and I was so drugged. And I was sitting with the anesthesiologist and she was like right next to me. And the only thing that was calming me was that the entire team of nurses and surgeons were all women. And I was like, okay, I love this. Like, I trust women. Like, I would not want a man doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Totally.
Women just get it.
Yeah. Especially this kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like ripping my baby out of my stomach. So, and then my doctor, her name was Dr. Schrader. John described her, because I don't remember a lot of this, it was very hazy for me, but John described her as like a sociopath who like loves her job but is also crazy and like really intense. And I was like, oh, I'll take it. I remember really liking her.
She's probably on the spectrum a little bit, like so weird smart or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you know how they say that like the most psychopaths are like doctors?
Yeah.
He was like, she was definitely a psychopath, but like in a good way. I was like, okay. So anyway, they were like, we're going to start. And I'm shaking like crazy. I'm terrified. Like people who say that they had like a good C-section experience, I'm like, how? Maybe if you plan for it. This was not planned for me. But yeah, I was really scared. So they were like, all right, do you feel this? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, we're going to start. And I was so doped up on the anesthetic. Is that what's called? Anesthetics? Anesthesia. Thank you. And I was just like out of it. And John's holding my hand. And I think it was about 8 minutes from the start of the surgery when they pulled the baby out. And I heard her cries. And my first words were, what the fuck? She's real? So that's not cute. And I literally have that on camera because John like had the vocals or like the audio recording. And he's like crying and he's like, she's so beautiful. And I'm like, those are much better like first words after your daughter is born than what the fuck, she's real. And I just kept saying like, is she real? Is this real? And then this got a little traumatic for me because I thought that they were going to like hold her up over the curtain so that I could see her because I'm the mother and I should be the first one to see my baby, right?
I feel like I've seen those like photos and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a thing. So they didn't do that. And they like rushed her off over to the side of the room where I couldn't see her and gave her to the baby doctor. And John was there. John got to cut the umbilical cord. And John got to hold her. And John got to put her first diaper on. And he's the whole time like, she's so beautiful. She's perfect. And everyone's like, oh my God, she has strawberry blonde hair. And oh, her eyes are blue. And I was like, show me my baby. Where's my baby?
Like, I went to see, I just did all of this.
Yeah.
Work. Yeah.
I'm like the last one in the room to see my baby. So yeah, I kept begging. I was like, where's my baby? And they were like, you're bleeding out. Like, we have to do a blood transfusion. And I was just like, I want to see my baby. So it was another like, I think 20 to 30 minutes that they were like giving me a blood transfusion and sewing me up and like gluing my stomach shut. And I didn't realize that I'd like lost so much blood and like I was like bleeding out on the table. So I think that's why they didn't like get my baby to me right away because they were like, oh, we're trying to save your life over here, basically. And I just didn't really understand that at the time. So I was just there like, where's my baby? Show me my fucking baby that I just grew. Like, I want to see her. And then finally, John brought her over. He said it was like a couple minutes. This felt like 1,000 years for me because I'm sitting there like I can't see her. He brought her over. I got to look at her and I think I was just like, and then I started violently throwing up. I was just like I just started throwing up so much and they're just like holding a bag and I was like, this could not be worse.
Is that normal?
Yeah, it's pretty normal. They were like moving my stomach contents around. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that makes total sense.
I know. I didn't get it either.
If it was like because of the drugs or whatever.
I think it was also because of the drugs.
Probably the drugs and moving your stomach contents around.
Yeah, that'll do it. So then finally they like wheeled us out to recovery and baby girl was in a bassinet and I was in the bed and I like wanted to see her, but I was so out of it. Like I barely remember this, which I absolutely hate because I wanted to like be so present in her birth. But I was so doped up. I was just like, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. And they were like, well, we can give you ice chips. And I was like, get me the ice chips. And everyone's like, do you want to hold your baby? And I'm like, I need ice chips. And so they brought me like a huge thing of ice chips, like Pebble ice, you know?
Yeah.
And they said, they were like, but you have to chew gum first. And I was like, why do I have to chew gum first? I still don't really understand. Maybe you can ask Matt later. But I think it's something about like getting your system working again so that you can like swallow stuff. But I've never tasted anything better than those Pebble ice chips. I mean, I was downing cups of those. I was like, keep them coming, you guys. And then they came over to tell me about the pain pills I would be on. So they were like, okay, so we'll give you Motrin or ibuprofen and Tylenol. And I said to her, I was like, don't you think it's fucked up that you're only going to give me over-the-counter drug medication after I've had major abdominal surgery? I literally like locked in on her and said that.
What did she say? Don't you think it's fucked up? You're like, actually?
I'm like, no, you're going to give me more than that, actually. And she was like, okay, we can give you oxycodone too, which apparently is not the norm. Which is crazy.
Like, you just went from like A to Z.
I know. So I was like, give me the oxy. I remember every time one of the postpartum nurses would come in, they'd be like, oh, you're having oxy. And I'd be like, yeah, they literally told me they moved my intestines around. Like, of course I'm having oxy. That is insane that you only give people Advil.
Yeah, that's crazy. Could you feel them doing that though? Like when they were in there like cutting her?
No.
You know what I mean?
The only thing I could feel is they had told me they were going to need to put a lot of pressure on my like upper abdomen to like kind of push her out. And I felt that, but it was just them pushing. Like a lot of people say they feel the pressure of her, like the baby, like coming out of you. I didn't feel that.
Yeah. And you just felt nauseous like afterwards.
Yeah. I was like, I'm nauseous. And then I was like vomiting.
And where is the incision? Like,
so it is like very low. It's like right above your vagina.
Really?
Like right above the pubic area, like very bottom of your like abdomen.
And so they push down from up there and then like get her out of there?
Yeah. And it's a very small incision. I think it's maybe like 6 to 8 inches. So that's crazy. But they also, oh my gosh, they took all of Charly's measurements, which they do at birth, and they said that she was 12.3 inches long, which is the size of a ruler. And we just accepted that as facts. We were like, okay, we're telling everyone she's 12 inches long. That was not true. She was like at least 16 or 17 inches. That makes no sense. Like our pediatrician said, was the doctor tired that day? Because that makes no sense. But so it was crazy.
Do you still feel like you were out of it though at this point? Like,
yeah. So the first like 24 hours, I was really out of it. And I don't know if other people are like this. Like I see people who are like, I loved my C-section. Like I had skin to skin immediately. I was breastfeeding on the table. Like that was not the case for me. But I don't think I was really able to process this trauma until after I left the hospital, which was 4 days later. We were there for 4 more days. So it was a total of a week or like 6 days that we were in the hospital. And we moved to postpartum. L&D nurses, labor and delivery nurses, way better than postpartum nurses. So yeah, I was really out of it for about 24 hours. And apparently my parents came to visit that day. I didn't realize it was that day. I mean, I remember them being there, but I don't remember it being that day. And John's just like has a, full memory of all this. And I was just absent. I was not here, which is, it's good because I didn't really experience a lot of pain that first day. Oh, apparently I had like a huge blood clot too, like in the recovery room. John was like, wait, should she be bleeding this much? And then all the nurses run over and they're like, nope. And so I was like trying to bleed out again on the table. It's just like crazy. Like my body was like, bye.
Oh my gosh. So you had to get another transfusion?
Yeah, I was like super low on iron. I was white as a sheet for like days. And the nurses every day would be like, oh, you have a little more color today. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't know this happened. Like I was too out of it. I was eating my ice chips, Tori. Like I was busy, booked and busy eating ice chips while I bled out. So yeah, I lost a lot of blood. And they even came to me. Like the thing is, they like brief you on how the surgery went right after you get it. So I'm sitting there eating my ice chips, like kind of holding my baby's hand, like trying to like be like, oh, look, I have a baby now. She's 2 minutes old. And they're like, oh, so here's how the surgery went. You lost a lot more blood than we had hoped. And we had to move your intestines around a little. And I'm just sitting there like, okay. And the only thing I heard was like, we're giving you Tylenol and Advil. And I was like, no, you're giving me more. Thank you. And it was traumatic because the first 36 hours I was trying to breastfeed. And I'm going to be honest, like I didn't know there was any other option to feed my baby except for breastfeeding because they're very against you giving her like a bottle or anything in the first 2 weeks because they say she'll get nipple confusion. And if you want to breastfeed, then that's like can be really bad. I disagree. I think that's bullshit because in the first 36 hours, she lost 9% of her body weight. And they only want the baby to lose 10% in the first week. So that was like very, very fast. And she just like, she wasn't getting food. Like I was trying to breastfeed. It was traumatic. Every time they would come in and be like, time to feed, I'd be like, no, please. Like it was painful. And she wasn't latching and she wasn't getting anything. And everything they say about breastfeeding being hard is so accurate. Like it is so hard. And I was just like getting to this point where I was like really depressed because the only time I'd get to hold her would be to try and feed her. And then John would take her back and he would just be sitting there like, oh, you're so cute. You're so perfect. Like bonding with her. And I'd be like, oh, every time I hold her, I'm like sobbing, trying to like feed her.
Why wouldn't they let you hold her any other time?
Well, they would. It's just I was like, I had still an IV in my wrist, so I couldn't move this arm. So it was like very hard to hold her.
Yeah.
And it was just she was feeding so often or trying to that like it just made sense that anytime I was like awake, I would just be trying to feed her.
Yeah.
So I felt the opposite of that like bonding feeling because I was just like so stressed out about it. And it wasn't until like the next night, like not the first night of postpartum, that was a rough night because she was like crying the entire night because she wasn't getting enough food. And then the next night, John had mentioned like, oh, I think someone said there was like donor breast milk. And I was like, what? And in the middle of the night, I called the pediatrician in and I was like, how do I get this donor breast milk? Like she's not getting enough food. And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll clear you for it. And they brought in 10 milliliters, which is like a third of an ounce. It's a very small amount. And I remember looking at it and being like, she's not going to be able to eat that. She's been getting like 6 drops, like, and that makes her full. She sucks that down in less than 30 seconds. Like she was starving and I had no idea. I mean, I knew, but I didn't. Like there was nothing I could do. I wasn't producing enough milk yet to like feed her. And so for the rest of the hospital stay, like I was still trying to like breastfeed and trying to pump. And at the same time, I was giving her donor breast milk and she finally like started doing better. And that's when I was like, oh, wait, she doesn't scream and cry if she's fed. That was what was missing. The whole postpartum experience was crazy. And, you know, we didn't sleep much at all. It was really hard to recover. I was in so much pain on days like 3 and 4. And it was just like every nurse had like a differing opinion. So a new nurse would come in and be like, oh my God, your baby's probably freezing. Like, why don't you have socks on? And then the next nurse would come in and be like, oh my God, your baby's overheating. Why do you have socks on? Like, it was just constantly like a roller coaster. And John and I, like, by the time we left, we realized we'd lost like all our confidence.
Aww.
And just like, we weren't listening to our intuitions because we were trying to figure out like, what's the logical right thing to do. And it was just so hard to figure out like how to listen to our intuitions again because we were just constantly like, we're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong. You know, it was just like always something. And we were also just like so sleep deprived and we were just trying to figure out this little baby. So the last day we were about to discharge and I went to the bathroom and I passed a softball sized blood clot.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever had a blood clot like during your period?
Yes, I've had plenty.
Okay. I never have had one. So I was like, this is the craziest, gnarliest thing of my life. And I come out and I'm like, they had told me if you pass a blood clot that's larger than like a golf ball, like call us, it could be life threatening. Okay. So I was sitting there like, oh, great.
I've never had any that big. But... But pretty big, like probably like this big.
Yeah, that's pretty normal size.
But
This
not
was
a
like this big.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, insane. So I also just started to feel like shaky again, dizzy, woozy, just like very out of it. So John calls the nurse and he's like, yeah, we just had like a blood clot. Like someone needs to come in and look. 15 minutes goes by. No one comes in. Calls them again. We really need someone. Someone needs to come in. No one comes in. 15 minutes go by again. He calls. He's like, okay, we need a new nurse or something because like my wife is sitting here like not doing well and we need someone to come look at this. So finally like the nurse manager comes in and she's like, I hear you need a new nurse. And he's like, well, I just need someone to like look at my wife. Like this just happened and you guys said that could be life threatening. So we're just sitting here. She's not doing well. And they like go look and they're like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. Like no one gives a shit. And I'm just like, why is nobody concerned? Like, should we not be concerned? Like, just tell me, like if we don't need to be concerned, I won't be concerned, but I'm like not doing well over here. And so then the OBGYN comes in and she's like, oh, well, if you're not like hemorrhaging after you pass a blood clot, like it's fine. It's just going to like come out. And I was like, why did no one tell me that? Like before I went through this whole situation, like you literally told me it could be like life threatening.
Yeah, and to like let you know.
I know, like you could have just told me that when you told me about the blood clot thing. Like what? And John was like literally yelling at the nurses, like, this boy never yells. And I was like, damn, he's pissed. So after that, I was just crying so much. I was like, I want to leave. Like, I want to take my baby and get out of here. And that's what we got to do. And we left and we were terrified. And I was like, wait, but who's going to take care of us? Like, they've been telling us how to do everything. Like, we actually don't know how to do this. And thank God we were checking into the village postnatal retreat that day because damn, I needed that. Like, wow, I really needed that. So we came home for like a couple hours. It was nice. We got to like show the neighbors. We got to like show her off. We were like, look, she's 4 days old. Like, she's so cute. And then we went to the city and we went to this postnatal retreat and we stayed there for 4 days. And that was the best thing we could have ever done. Like, we got our confidence back. We got to process our trauma. We had some like counseling sessions. We had lactation sessions. We just like, we got to sleep at night. Like, they took care of her so we could sleep. We figured out how to feed her, how much to feed her. Like, it was just the best thing we could have done. And I feel like I just don't think I would have been doing well if we were just at home. Like, and I know that because the day we got home from the postnatal retreat, or like the next day after I'd had a whole night where we were just taking care of her, I had like the worst baby blues ever. And it was really bad and it was really dark. And I cried like the whole day, could not stop, uncontrollable crying. My mom had to come over. Like, I was just sobbing, like anything would make me cry. And I was just like, what do we do? Like, I ruined my whole life. Like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. And it was just like a very, very dark day. And I remember like I was like researching like postpartum hotlines, like how can I get help? I need a therapist. I need drugs. Like, I need something because I'm not doing well. And I hadn't had any sleep and it was just like really bad. And that night, John was like, okay, I'm going to take the baby and you're going to go and you're going to sleep and you're not going to wake up to pump and you're not going to wake up to get the baby and you're just going to sleep. And that night I slept 11 hours and I woke up the next day and I was like a whole new person. And I was like, oh my God, I can do this. Like, and I love her and she's perfect. And I just felt so much better. And that's when we realized that I needed to prioritize sleep because that shit will screw you up.
And you've always been someone who like gets a good amount, like gets your 8 hours of sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know
Yeah.
that I'm not good without sleep.
Well, you're
It's,
like, okay, bedtime. I'm going
yeah,
to bed.
it's like my Achilles heel, not having sleep. And this just totally made me realize like, okay, like I have to be good about this. Like, we both can't just be up with the baby all night. That's not going to work. And now, I mean, we're 5 weeks in. I'm getting at least 6 hours a night, if not 8. Like, we're figuring it out. And I've started drinking caffeine again. And, I don't know. I look back on this time now. It feels like so long ago, but it also feels like yesterday. I think I still have a lot of trauma to process from birth, but also, I don't know, like, I feel strong. I feel like, damn, like I did that. And now like she's here. And like look what my body did. I'm recovering so well from my C-section. Like that I didn't have to worry about as much as I did because the recovery is going beautifully. I'm almost 6 weeks postpartum. I'm going to be able to swim again. Like it's been going really well. So I don't want to like leave you guys with like a negative note, but this is the reality. Like it was really crazy. And going through it, I don't think I realized how traumatic it was. Like I was smiling the whole time, you know, and I was like hanging on and I would cry a lot. Yeah. But then I would like be positive again and pick up my head and like do this. And I did the damn thing. And it is the craziest thing I've ever done.
When did you have your moment of like, oh, I like did this and I'm amazing. The fact that I did this and I love her. I'm sure you've had plenty of moments like that too, as well as like the dark moments that you're talking about. Like do those come in waves? Like, do you think you ever really had this like, okay, wow, she's out, she's here, and I did this moment? You know what I'm saying? Am I making
Oh,
sense?
yeah, absolutely. The thing about like the postpartum emotions is that you don't just get to feel like a consistent emotion for that long. And that's what I'm realizing with this like everything is temporary. Like I will go through like 30 minutes of such a high and then the next 30 minutes will be such a low. And so you just have to like give yourself grace, you know, and like realize that you're going to have those like super positive moments. Like yesterday was one of those for me. Like we had such a great day and I was looking at her and I would cry, you know, just like, I love you so much. You're so perfect. You're so beautiful. We're going to have this whole life together. And then she'd cry, and I'd be like, wow, I ruined my life. Like, it's just, it comes and goes. But yeah, those first couple days at the village, like the emotions were high, the hormones were high. And I was mostly just crying out of like pure love and pure, just like, wow, I did this. She's here. She's mine. I can look at her whatever I want. Like, just so much love.
How, like, as a whole, would you describe, like, the whole thing, you know? Like, in just, like, a short, like, sentence, would you say it's, like, what kind of experience?
I'd say traumatic but beautiful because it really was like one of the most traumatizing things I've ever experienced. But at the same time, you're met with like just so much love and just such a beautiful moment of like meeting your baby and having them that it really outweighs the trauma. And that's how it was for me and why it like I didn't process any of this until after I left the hospital. Cause I was like, why would I be sad? Like I have this amazing, beautiful, perfect, healthy baby girl. Like that's everything I've always wanted. I don't know how to describe it, but it was definitely had moments of trauma and moments of beauty.
I feel like I'm really proud of you and John both. I think y'all have really handled everything well, and it's such a huge life change, but it's one that was so wanted, and you guys
Yeah.
are so ready for it. And
Yeah. I think we are doing well. Like we get out of the house every day. Everyone's always like, "Oh my god, you left your house?" I'm like, "Of course I left my house. That's the only way I stay sane." But she's a wonderful baby. Like I'm obsessed with her. I can't wait for you to meet her. Maybe when she's not in her screaming potato phase, but she is everything. And we are doing so well. And I'd say like 90% of the time is just happy and beautiful and magical and amazing. And the other 10% is kind of hard. And I think there's like such a beautiful duality of parenthood that I'm realizing. Like you can experience the highs and the lows all together. And it doesn't make it a good or a bad thing. It's just that's how it is.
what about that feeling that everyone talks about where they're like, "Oh my gosh, you've never felt anything like it." Do you feel like this unlocked a new emotion, or do you feel like it's like the same emotion of love just amplified?
You know, I don't think it unlocked a new emotion for me, but that I'm someone who's always been so in tune with my emotions. And I want to ask John this because I think it might have done that for John.
Mhm.
Like I've never seen him cry so much. And
No.
like just out of like pure love for this little human. For me, I feel like I love her so much, but I've experienced that before. Like I love John so much. I love my dog so much. Like I just feel everything so deeply already.
Yeah.
that like I don't think there's a deeper place, you know?
Yeah. Like you already had like a really big threshold anyways. So it's like
Yeah, but I do want to ask John this because he doesn't feel quite as deeply as I do. And so I
mhm.
do wonder, like, was this a whole new feeling for you?
Mhm. I'm so proud of you, and like I know that that obviously wasn't the exact birth that you were looking for, but what a like story of like trials and like because even from the beginning of you like wanting to get pregnant and all of this, like you went through all of that for her, and that's
Yeah.
just like a beautiful story of sacrifice, you know? I think honestly that's what motherhood is if you do it right.
Yeah, I think it is, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I wanted this, you know? She didn't ask for it, and I like decided to like sacrifice everything so she could be here. Like she didn't ask for that. And like I wanted her. And so it does feel like sacrifice. And John says it all the time. He's like, look what you sacrificed so that we could have a family. And it's like, yeah, I wanted her though. You know, like I made that choice. Like I knew what was going to happen. And that's why like there's something so beautiful about having my own birth story. Even if it was a little traumatizing, it was kind of scary, like it's still mine. And I find that really cool. And there are some days where I'm just like, holy shit, I did that. Like that's
Mhm.
crazy. Like I had that like 2 days ago. I was like looking at her and I was like, I had a C-section. They cut me open and took a baby out of it. That's crazy. I grew her.
You're like, I got blood transfusions.
I could have died. Like it's so insane, but like I don't know, I still loved it. Like I still like would I have chosen a different type of birth? Sure. But like do I still look at that with like beauty? Yeah.
I have this one friend who's like, "Oh, I would do it every day if I could."
People say that.
I'm like,
And I really wanted that.
no, I'm like, that sounds crazy. And then I have most of my, that's one out of like all of them. The rest of them are like, it was really hard. And theirs didn't like, weren't that smooth. So I don't know. They have different like opinions on it.
Yeah.
Like beautiful, so glad, you know, that they
Mhm.
did it obviously. And it's a beautiful
Right.
thing, but it's hard. And like, who wants to do something traumatizing every day, you know?
Yeah, like I wouldn't do this again. Like 10 out of 10 would not recommend. I think at one point cuz I uploaded my whole labor vlog and at one point I was like would not recommend.
So right now you're still like, this is probably a one and done situation.
Oh, 100%. And everyone's like no, you'll change your mind, you'll change your mind. So like maybe I will. But right now, she's my only child. I love it that way. And we're obsessed. Like having one kid is so chic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is actually.
That is the long, crazy story of how Miss Charlotte was born. But yeah, we're in a new journey now. So I'm so excited to keep updating you guys. And I think what's going to be interesting about the podcast going forward is like you and I are in like totally different stages in life. And I think that's really cool because we can like show like here's mom life and postpartum and here's like Tori's living a dream, like going to live in like Portland, Maine, and doing your hot girl shit.
I mean, Matt and I actually recently had friends come and visit us, and we were thinking more seriously because they had their kids here. And I think we are gonna have a kid.
Oh my god,
Yeah, but
that's so exciting! I hope
mm,
this didn't scare you.
no, but I mean, also it's gonna be in like a couple of years, so this is all like if it all works out, you know. But
Yeah.
I think we did like come to a decision.
Oh, I love that.
You know, we're gonna go free some embryos this year.
Yay, that's so exciting.
Hmm.
Oh,
But
I'm excited to catch up with you. We're gonna do a whole episode next week where we catch up on everything because Tori and I have like barely talked for like a month, so we need to
I
catch up.
know, I know. Well, I know, like, first of all, like, the newborn bubble is a thing, and I feel like that's such a special, like, sacred time that everyone,
Hmm.
like, deserves, so.
It's been really nice to take some time off, and I'm not ready to come back yet. So I'm not. I'm just gonna like, you know, do a couple podcasts here and there. But if you have any questions for me, by the way, feel free to slide into my DMs. My username is Hannah Lee Lifestyle on all platforms. And come, we can chat all things postpartum and new mom life. Or, if you want to talk about anything with Tori, she's always here as well. But our DMs are open. You can also follow us at Internet Girls Pod. That's girls with a Z. We are all over the place. TikTok, Instagram. You can watch us live on YouTube. Yeah, rate, review, and we're so happy you're here. We're going to be here every Monday.
Thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Hannah, so much for sharing your whole story with us. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. It's kind of a long story, but a crazy one.
I love you so much.
Love you too. And with that,